Rocky View Schools is situated in Treaty 7 territory, which includes the Nittesappi, the Blackfoot, made up of the Siksika, Piikani, and the Kainai nations, Stoney Nakoda, made up of the Wesley, Bearspaw, and Chiniki nations, Tsuut'ina Nation, and is homeland to the Métis people. Rocky View Schools would like to acknowledge the land and recognize all the Indigenous peoples whose footprints have marked these lands from time immemorial. Together, we can learn and honor the ways of knowing of Indigenous peoples for all future generations. I'd now like to welcome our principal, Mrs. Craigie.
Good morning, Giant community. My name is Andrea Craigie and I'm the principal at Herons Crossing School. I want to welcome everyone this morning in our school and in our community to our digital Remembrance Day ceremony. Thank you in advance for your respectful behavior during the video presentation today. Today we are remembering. Remembering can look like all the pieces we're going to see in our video today. People singing, people speaking, people teaching. It can also look like quiet reflection and giving thanks for the freedom and the lives that we enjoy today. As we're going to see, hear, learn, and remember this morning, our world used to be very different. Boys and girls' lives used to be very different. And so we want to spend time remembering and being thankful, acknowledging how very lucky we are to live in Airdrie, to live in Alberta, to live in Canada. At this time, I will ask you to please turn your attention to our MCs, Jordan and Mason.
Thank you, Ms. Craigie. Welcome, Herons Crossing School students, staff, and community members. My name is Jordan, and this is Mason, and we will be your MCs for this Remembrance Day ceremony. This year, we welcome you from wherever you may be, in your classroom, at work, or at home. We will now have the playing of our national anthem. You are invited to sing along if you are in a safe space to do so. If you are at school or in a public space, we respectfully ask that you wear your mask to sing. Thank you for your understandings. Please stand for O Canada. Remembrance Day is a day for all Canadians to remember the men and women who served for our country and sacrificed for our country. It is a day when we encourage every individual, young and old, to pause, to give thanks, and to remember. We'd like to acknowledge and thank our Herons Crossing School Color Guard members. Thank you for your commitment and service. It will be the responsibility of us all, the adults and the youth, to ensure our society continues to remember those who fell, those who were maimed, or those who were at homes and they were changed by the war. It is up to us to ensure that the memory is kept alive. Thank you.
The 11th of November is called Remembrance Day. On Remembrance Day, most people wear a poppy. This flower is worn to remind us of people killed on the battlefields of the First and Second World Wars, the Korean War, and more modern military operations around the world, including those in the Balkans and in Afghanistan.
In Belgium and France, it's easy to discover plenty of red poppies. They are usually found in Flanders Fields, where much of the fighting in the First World War took place. The war was known as the Great War, because it was the first time in history that almost every country in the world was at war. However, it was not a great place to be. The war lasted 4 years, and every spring the soldiers who lived and fought in the trenches noticed the red flowers blooming on the battlefields and on the graves of friends killed in the fighting.
When the war ended and the people who were in the military came home, they continued to think about their friends who were buried overseas. Each time they thought of the graves, they remembered the poppies which grew around the graves. They did not want Canadians to forget that their friends died serving Canada. The poppy became a symbol that everyone could wear to show they remembered.
Why do we remember them on the 11th of November each year? The war stopped on the 11th hour of November 11, 1918. Those who were in the war decided it would be right to remember their friends on the day the fighting stopped. Many Canadians also died in the Second World War, the Korean War, on peacekeeping mission, and more modern conflicts, including Afghanistan. These men and women are also remembered on November 11th. When you wear the poppy, we remember all those brave Canadians.
Thank you, Jordan, Nolan, Quinn, and Lara for the Remembrance Day message. This year we have invited our Herons Crossing staff and students to help us honor those who have served in Canada in times of war, military conflict, and peace. We now present you just some of the family members and close friends of our Herons Crossing community who have served. The veterans and service members' pictures will be accompanied by Grade 7 choir performing After the War, written by David Keeley and Paul Gross. Thank you to our students and staff for sharing the service and sacrifices of your loved ones.
In Flanders Fields is a poem written by Canadian John McCrae that tells us the story of sacrifice and duty. In May 1915, one of Dr. John McCrae's closest friends and comrades was killed in the trenches near Ypres, Belgium. He was buried in a humble grave with a simple wooden cross. Wild poppies bloomed between the crosses, marking many graves. The next day, unable to help his friends or any of the others who had died, Dr. McCrae gave them a voice through his poem. On January 28, 1918, John McCrae succumbed to pneumonia and meningitis. He died not knowing the outcome of the war, but with a full understanding of the cost of it. Before he died, Dr. McCrae had a satisfaction of knowing that his poem had been a success. Soon after his publication, it became the most popular poem in the First World War. It was translated to many languages and used on billboards and advertisements. In part because of the poem's popularity, the poppy was adopted as the flower of remembrance. The symbolic poppy in John McCrae's poems are still linked, and the voices of those who have died in war continue to be heard each Remembrance Day. Next, we'll hear from the grade 2 classes, Miss Allen, Miss Brochu, Miss Verbeek, and Miss Krawczyk.
In Flanders Fields by John McCrae. In Flanders Fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks will bravely singing fly, scared heard amid the guns below. We are the dead, short days ago. We lived, felt on, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye make faith with us who die, we shall not sleep though poppies grow in Flanders Fields.
Thank you, grade 2s, for sharing John McCrae's poem.
Today, the poppy is worn each year during the Remembrance period to honor Canada's fallen. We take time to remember the Canadian men and women who served. Let us also remember the contributions of the Indigenous people of Canada, including the Métis, the First Nations, and the Inuit. Let us remember the proud tradition of Black Canadians and their service in uniform. Often Indigenous people and Black Canadians had to overcome challenges just to enlist in the military in earlier years, when our society was less inclusive. They persevered to make their mark. Today, when we pause to remember, we remember them all. A Minute Lost in Silence. This poem was written just last year by Garth Paul Ukrainet. He is the poet laureate in Blackmud Creek in Edmonton.
A Minute Lost in Silence.
Loud the roar of wartime years,
Sacred poppies of November.
in remembrance of their tears.
In our minute lost in silence,
We must listen close together,
lest we all forget to hear it.
lest the silence last forever.
Every year on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, we gather in memorial parks, community halls, workplaces, and schools, and homes to stand in honor of those who have fallen. Together we observe the moment of silence to mark the sacrifices of the many who have fallen in service of their country.
Please stand for the act of remembrance, the last post, a moment of silence, reveille, and the commitment to remember.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. They were young as we are young. They served, giving freely of themselves. To them we pledge amid the winds of time, to carry their torch and never forget, we will remember them.
Our classes at Herons Crossing School have created wreaths, artwork, and songs as an act of remembrance. We do this to honor the war, dead, and their sacrifices and freedoms. While we share this artwork, you'll hear the Poppy Song performed by the Ukulele Club.
Soldiers and sailors and airmen too fought for us across the sea. Brave and unselfish, strong and true, keeping Canada free. I'll wear a poppy on Remembrance Day to show I'm proud of what they did for me. God bless my country is the prayer I pray. God keep Canada free. Soldiers and sailors and airmen too fought for us across the sea. Brave and unselfish, strong and true, keeping Canada free. I'll wear a poppy on Remembrance Day to show I'm proud of what they did for me. God bless my country is the prayer I pray. God keep Canada free.
Thank you to our students, staff, and community members for your contributions and for joining our Remembrance Day ceremony, lest we forget.